NZ Aerosports, Icarus Canopies, now Gyro. That's right, we've rebranded, and Gyro is our next generation. It honours our founder, as that's the name we knew him by, but Gyro also marks the start of a new chapter. And not to be biased, but it's going to be fucking epic. Long story short, we're more us than ever, so if you're new to the sport, or even a Sky God Ninja Turtle, welcome. I think our valiant leader Lucy, Gyro's daughter, says it best.
And we still got that fuck yeah attitude. Rebrand! Woo!
Rebrand woo indeed, Lucy. Anyway, head over to gyro.com for more info and get amongst you legends.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus Canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul Gyro Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that Gyro created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. Gyro is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but Gyro the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. Gyro is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. Gyro is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in free fall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. Gyro captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight. Hey gang, so I got a new book out. It's called The Upside of Fear, and it's exactly what you think it's about. It's about the good side of, well, getting scared. In it, we talk not only about the science and biology behind fear, but the psychology as well. And it's not just coming from me, it's coming from some of the best in the sport. Omar Alhigelan, Jeff Provenzano, Maxine Tate, and so many more have contributed their sometimes terrifying stories to the book to help you overcome your fear. So head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com. You're going to find the link to the book there, as well as the other books. It's available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook right now.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
This meeting is being recorded.
Ready, set, go! Back in the can for another edition of the Lunatic Fringe podcast, and a friendly face I haven't seen for a long time that I got to meet initially in a pretty fucked up time in my life. Tell me, who the fuck are you and what do you do?
Hi, so I'm Chris Rosenfelt. Your listeners probably know me most for I own skydiverdriver.com.
Yeah.
And caravannation.com and a bunch of turbopropnation.com and a myriad of other aviation related websites and companies.
Nice. And I'm guessing that keeps you relatively busy when you're not just sitting in the seat.
It does. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
That's good, man. It's good to see you. I think the last time we were sitting face to face was in Temple, Texas.
It was, yes.
Fuck me, man. That would have been 2008.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Goddamn.
Yeah, at Mark's old drop zone, Skydive Temple.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I got run out of Mexico and ended up taking shelter in that fucking leaning trailer on on the drop zone at Temple, Texas, flying the occasional otter load and in a place I never thought I'd be.
Yeah, that was crazy times. I remember you telling me about what you had just experienced. I'm like, what the hell? That's crazy. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it was quite a trip, but I'll tell you what, I'd never been happier in my life to be living in a broken down trailer ever.
and flying off that. Remember how muddy that runway was?
Oh yeah, I do
Yeah.
remember. I do
Yeah.
remember. So hey, let's get into it. I want to jump into obviously you've been in aviation for a long time now and dealing with the skydiver side of things and then outside of skydiving for quite some time. But how'd you get your start? Like where did aviation kind of hit the radar for you?
Yeah. So I was 15 years old. Um, I was raised by a single mother, right? So we didn't really have all that much money. And I remember I don't know what I wanted at the time. It was a summer. I don't remember what year, whatever year it was when I was 15. I don't know. I don't know, a Nintendo game or something stupid. And, she's like, okay, so you got to go get a job and, then you buy it. That's how life works, buddy. So my mom's a smart ass. That's partially where I get it from. So, and then I returned back. I'm like, yeah, but there's these things called like child labor laws and I'm 15. She's like, to make a long story short, she went and found me a job. There was a friend of hers named Cal Grotewood, rest in peace. He was a widower and he had a large piece of property there in El Monte, California. So I would just he had a little sit down mower. So I would mow his grass and just odd jobs, paint. And I remember one lunch break there. I was just sitting there looking at all the photos on the mantle of his fireplace. And I saw a photo of an airplane sitting there. And I'm very visual. I can see it in my head. And I was like, and he was back in his office. And I said, hey, Cal, what's this photo of this airplane doing here? And he's like, oh, that's one of my other babies. And I don't know why I was intrigued. And I kept asking him question after question he's like, yeah, I use that for business. And, it's parked at the El Monte airport. And I just kept asking him question after question. And then he finally asked me, he's like, you want to go flying with me? And I was like, duh. He's like, okay, you ask your mom if it's okay. And I'll take you. I have a business trip going to San Jose. If you'd like to, you could be my co-pilot. And I was like, just like, yeah. So yeah, she said, yeah, you can go. And at some point during that trip from El Monte Airport to San Jose Airport, the bug bit me square in the ass. Yeah. And I knew that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. There's no question about it whatsoever.
It's kind of funny. That's roughly how I got started. Also at the same age, I was 14 and had seen an old network TV movie about some girl that as a kid wanted to go be a pilot. And for some reason, it sparked an interest in me. But at 14, what are you going to do about it? Well,
yeah.
My parents were good friends with a guy that worked for a company called Patterson Aviation in Sacramento, and he owned a Queen Air. And they got him to take me up for like a 30 or 45-minute flight. And I mean, your first time I'm sitting in the cockpit of what then was this enormous twin, it was the biggest fucking thing I'd ever seen. And all of a sudden I'm in the cockpit flying over Folsom Lake. And it was before we even got back to the airport. I'm like, oh, I'm going to fucking do this. And by the time I was, as soon as I hit 16, I was taking flying lessons.
Yeah. Yep.
Kind of funny how that works, huh?
It is. Yes. Yes.
So now how'd you, I mean, obviously, especially if you're working for this guy just to try and buy Nintendo games and shit, even back then, aviation was not cheap. So how do you swing that?
Exactly. So like right when we landed, I said, so I know what I want to do, and she's heard this before. I saw Indiana Jones. I wanted to be an archaeologist. I think at one point I wanted to be a firefighter. So she's like, okay, here we go again. So, but I was like, and then we looked into it and it was, sure enough, it's friggin' expensive. She's like, I don't have money like that, Chris. Like it's not happening. So, and I'm like, well, I'm not giving up. And so it was the summertime. So I went and got 2 jobs. I mean, like full-time jobs. And I was like, she made the mistake of saying every dollar that she was trying to, I get it now looking back, she was trying to teach a lesson. Like, if you want something in life, you got to work for it. We're not just going to, I'm not just going to dole out money. Like, it doesn't work like that. So she's like, I'll match every dollar you put towards it. I'll match you dollar for dollar. So that was a mistake. Okay. Because I went out and worked and worked and worked. And then when school started, then I still had a job at night and on the weekends. And I don't forget how long it took me, but I amassed, I don't know how many thousands of dollars. And I was like, Mom, so you remember remember that little promise you made? She's like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, you said you'd match me dollar for dollar. And I'm like, well, so here's the money I have. And I could still see the look on her face. She's like, what the fuck? Shit. So she had to honor her word, and then that started it. But so, yeah.
Now, did you go through?
I had to pay as I go, right?
Sure.
We didn't put down, that initial lump got sucked up fast. So anyways, and then towards the end, I had to max out 2 credit cards of my own. That's how long it took, 'cause I was 17 when I got my private, but then the instrument, I got halfway through the instrument. I got distracted I changed my major in college like 6 times. I got distracted by women and then all this other, so.
Stuff does happen. Well, I mean, I was similar in that I got all the way through my training back when I started my private pilot's course at 16. You could do all of the flying without the ground school. It wasn't integrated. So you could do it separately. And I was 16. I wanted to get in the plane and fly. And I was good at it. I was a natural stick, but I hated the book side of things. And at the flight school that I was going to, they would send you up for kind of an inter-school check ride just to see how you were progressing. And the first couple I did fantastic because it was just flying point to point and some maneuvers. But then it was apparent that I had done none of the ground school when they set me up. And after doing some maneuvers, the check pilot asked me, hey, so I need you to tune in this VOR and fly to it. And I'm like, the VO what? You need me to do what? And he's all, you don't know. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that was the like, all right, let's go ahead and land and have a discussion. And I fucking, I was absolutely horrible at it. And so I let that get the better of me. And it took me many, many years before I managed to finish up. And then, of course, I was highly motivated.
Yeah. I'm kind of similar. I was the type of student. So I was the class clown from elementary all the way through high school. Right. So I would do just enough in school, just enough to pass. I was tested well. And, so anyways, but when I found aviation, I couldn't wait to get home to study. I was like having an outer body. So I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
This is crazy. Even my mom's like, who are you? And what'd you do with my son? But I loved it. This was great.
That's the thing though, right? Is because, I mean, I hate to say it, but the U.S. educational system is not geared towards,
joke.
Well, it's not geared towards students like you and I, right? Because I was a horrible student as well. Not because I was an idiot, but because it didn't engage me at all. I was
bored.
I had no fucking interest in it. I was horrible at math, which was one of the subjects that they were rather heavy on. So of course I became a pilot because who needs math as a pilot? But I was horrible at math and I was fantastic at English, which they didn't really give a fuck. And so I just slipped through the cracks because I wasn't interested.
Got probably like me. I get bored. That's one of my flaws. I get bored too easy. That's something I have in common with skydivers. Most of them get bored too easy. And
it's shiny key syndrome, right? You see something flashy and you're off to the next good thing until something else comes along. Luckily, skydiving is such a shiny activity that it draws people like us in and keeps us. But that's aviation as well, right? Because you realize as a student of aviation that in order to be able to do all the cool shit, you have to learn the boring shit. There's no two ways about it. I want to do that, and in order to do that, I need to learn how to read this METAR. Right? It's shit like that, right? So You said you put yourself through, and by the way, congrats, man. That's fucking hard at that age, working all that kind of stuff and putting yourself through, even with mom's help, putting
Yeah,
yourself through flight training. But to get to the point where you're maxing out credit cards, you're in college. What were you studying in college?
the business administration. I've always had an entrepreneurial bug. Matter of fact, that's another thing that slowed me down from finishing the pilot school. I did start a business in the late 90s, and it failed, like on paper, right? But I learned a lot of lessons, so it wasn't really a failure because I learned a lot of stuff that I've put towards my current business.
Sure.
One
Well, I
thing
mean,
is, don't start a business with your best friend if you want to keep him your best friend. I learned that. The guy still won't talk to me to this day, and that was the late 90s.
Yeah, dude, I'll tell you what, man, friendship and money, it just
Mhm.
can get really fucking weird, right? Like I learned a long time ago because I've been burned before, as I think everybody has.
Mhm.
You get burned and you decide, all right, either I'm going to be bitter about the fact that I'm going to get burned, or I'm just going to assume every time it's a friend and money that I'm never going to see that money again. And if you
Yep.
do, then you're thrilled.
Yeah. Yep.
But it sucks, especially if you're talking about doing something like business.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh well. Well,
Yeah.
so you're in college for business administration. You're still working yourself through flying. Did you know you were going to be a working pilot, or that was a maybe?
Yes. And before I learned any better, at my ignorant self, I wanted to be an airline pilot. I can't even say that without laughing now. I'm so far away from that. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
But like a lot of, everybody told me at the time, you've got to become a flight instructor. Wrong. You've got to, and then you got to go to airlines. Wrong. It's incorrect. And now looking back, I didn't have anyone. I had 4,000 students in my high school. I'm not bragging, just saying. I had no one to turn to. There was no other pilots there.
sure.
So I'm the people I'm, asking or, questions to was the pilot school.
Sure.
And I didn't really realize this till years after the fact. The people that were telling me that I needed to be a flight instructor was the school. And why would they say that? Because they want more money. That's why. And then not only that, they have another employee. So they're duly motivated to tell you to get that flight instructor rate. I didn't have any more money, period. We were tapped out 10 times. So I remember hanging out after I got my commercial instrument. I was hanging out I learned at Long Beach Airport. I was such a geek about aviation. Had no reason to be there, just drinking my coffee, talking to the pilots and whatnot. And I remember my flight instructor coming up. He's like, "What are you doing here? You got your commercial. Go get paid to fly." And I'm like, very funny. This was in 2008, by the way. What the hell? Mm-hmm. So I said, "So nobody's hiring, buddy." And the ink is still wet on my commercial. He's like, "Why don't you go become a jump pilot?" And I did not know what he was talking. I was like, what is that? He's like, I knew what a skydiver was, but I had never put the two together. He's like, they fly skydivers, the crazy people that jump out of airplanes. I'm like, oh yeah. Huh. He's like, go on this certain website he told me to go to, and you'll see they've got jobs listed. I flew home. So this was in 2008. Yeah, the year I met you. And I got on the website, and the first 3 places I called friggin' hired me over the phone.
That sounds about right.
And I was like, what the hell? The ink is still wet. I told them, I'm like, after I hung up, I'm like, did he hear me correctly? Like, I have 300 friggin' hours, and the ink is still wet. I've never flown skydivers. Like, what the hell? And they're like, when can you be here? And I'm like, so make a long story short, I chose Capital Skydiving there near Austin, Texas. So I wrote a little side note. I wrote an article titled My First Days as a Jump Pilot, where I talk about this. Because I mentor a lot of pilots, jump pilots especially, and they ask pretty much, they're asking the same questions. And I'm like, let's just create a place where all the answers are there, and I can just refer them over there. And if they have any additional, then you can come to me.
Sure.
But so anyways, I put everything I had in my little Honda Accord, and drove halfway across the country to, God, I don't even remember was it, Copeland, Texas or something? Anyways, Capital Skydive. It was in the middle. I thought I was lost because there was literally cows, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yep.
And then so I pulled over and I said, hey, Mike, I think I might have made a wrong turn. He's like, no, you keep going. You're going to see some balls on a fire on the power line, and we're right there. And I was thinking, and I write this in the article, were those the balls from the last pilot hanging on that damn wire? So, and I pulled up, and Mike was there sweeping the packing room, and it's just me and him. And again, I'm there right now in my head. He's like, you must be Chris. And I was like, hey, Mike. He's like, he immediately, fuck all that bullshit small talk. I like that too, by the way. We went out to his little 206 with the cargo door removed.
Yep.
Like with no Lexan, no nothing. It was just a hole there. He's like, okay, get it. And I had never flown a 206 before either. Nothing. So he's like, okay, we're going to get in there and we're going to fly to the local airport, Taylor, Texas. And you're going to do 3 takeoffs and landings. And if you don't spill my coffee, you bring me back here to Crosswinds Airport. And I found out real quick why it was called Crosswinds friggin' Airport. And we did that. I nailed those. And then I remember on our way back, and there was no GPS, dude.
Sure.
And I made the mistake of not looking at, some landmarks around there. Not that there were any. It was farmland, so there's not. What am I? Grain elevators.
Yeah.
Well, somehow I found that damn airport. Oh, you had to clear these power lines. You clear these power lines, dip down, and you immediately into a flare. That's how close the power lines were.
Yep.
So, and then I nailed that. We jump out of the airplane. He's like, good flying today, Chris. You'll have your first load at 9 a.m. Goodbye. And I'm like, my head was spinning like, what? Remember, I just came out of an academy where everything's rigid.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not my shit. That's not I'm not, Yeah. I found my people here. So I didn't have a place to stay. I was living in the AFF classroom for 6 months. I slept on the floor.
Sounds about right, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's especially back then as well. I mean, 2008, things were starting to tighten up in the skydiving industry a little bit as far as aviation, but it was still pretty loose. Like, I got my job flying for Chicagoland via, emails and telephone calls, and I was hired as the sole pilot of that drop zone flying a PAC 750, which I had a couple thousand hours in, and a Twin Otter, and I didn't even have a multi-engine rating at the time. Like, my job was literally hinging on whether or not I would pass my multi-engine test 2 weeks before I was supposed to start the job in Chicago. So you can imagine the fucking pressure to pass that checker. I've never been more stressed in my life. But that was the sport, I mean, when I got to Chicago, I want to say I flew maybe 15 or 20 hours with the owner at the time before I was signed off and flying single pilot in a Twin Otter with about 30 hours multi-engine time total. So you were just fucking making it up as you went along back then. Luckily it's come a long way, and there's a lot more training obviously that goes into, and a lot more care that goes into the aviation side of skydiving. Obviously there've been a bunch of incidents over all the years of skydiving that have really heightened the need for proper training in flying. But back in the day, it was if you could put get it on the ground rubber side down, you were hired.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is kind of funny because yeah, for sure. But I don't know if you saw this, because you took a different route than I did in aviation. I stayed mostly in skydiving, which turns out to be a big detriment for me if I wanted to go in any other form of aviation outside of skydiving, because to the rest of the aviation community, I'm a barnstormer. I'm a crop duster. I mean, it's very difficult to be taken seriously in a 121 environment. So I don't know about you, because you obviously we'll get into where you went after skydiving, but obviously you've taken a different route. But tell me, you started out with your skydiving like that. Where did the career go from there? Because obviously you can't spend forever in a doorless 206 in nowhere, Texas.
Yeah. So that I remember getting the knock on the AFF classroom door. Mike, he's like, Chris, can we, you got a minute? And I'm like, oh shit, this didn't sound, I didn't feel, the vibe was all bad. I thought, what the hell did I do? What the fuck did I do? And we sat there on that little picnic table. He's like, Chris, I'm sorry to tell you, but we're closing the doors effective immediately. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what the hell, man? He's like, it's nothing you did. It's just, anyways, I'm like, shit. So anyways, what did they say? Grab yourself by the bootstraps. I was really bummed out because I had moved, and I'm like, I'm not going back. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm not going back. I'm done. So I called the local competitor, which was Mark Bark there at Skydive Temple.
Yeah.
He answered and I said, hey, Mark, you don't know me, but this is I'm the pilot over here at Capital Skydiving. He's like, oh, how they doing? I said, pretty shitty, man. I just literally 10 minutes ago got a notice that we're closing the doors effective immediately. And he knew. He's like, oh, you looking for a job? I said, yes. He's like, come on down. We need a pilot. I'm like, oh my God, yes. Hell yeah. And he's like, because I was living in that AFF classroom, like wolf spiders were literally waking me up at night. Those are big ass motherfuckers. Have you ever seen a wolf spider?
Oh yeah, they're huge.
Yeah. But anyway, and he had a trailer that I could stay in with 40 foot with slide outs. I'm like, that was like the Taj Mahal to me. I'm like, oh my God, hell yeah. This is great, man. He had a nice little drop zone over there.
Yeah.
So, and then that ties it together. So that's where I met you, right? So I was flying for him. And then he, like at the last minute, he's like, oh, by the way, I leased a Twin Otter and you're not going to fly here for a while. I was excited to come. He's like, you could sit in the right seat if, just got to buy the pilot beers at night and stuff. I'm like, okay. So I was bummed out, but happy at the same time. Right. So I got I was going to get in a Twin Otter, which was cool, but I wasn't going to get paid. So, top ramen, baby. Let me tell you.
Yeah, man, I remember that vividly coming out there, and it was also a bad time of year, right? Because it was coming into winter when I got there, because I was supposed to be spending the winter in Mexico, which obviously didn't work out, and so it was off and on shit weather, so there wasn't a lot of flying going on. There weren't a lot of fun jumpers coming out because any fun jumpers were either done for the winter or traveling somewhere else to jump. So I think I probably only flew a dozen loads for him, maybe.
Oh my God.
You know, and that was when I was having hard conversations with Doug, the owner of the Otter, going, dude, we gotta find somewhere else to go. And
I remember the runway being extra muddy too. Like it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, and that Twin Otter and it ruts the shit out of a runway like that as well. So it was not mutually beneficial at the time. Yeah. But you were telling me before the podcast that you actually went out and got your multi so you could log time.
This was so shitty, man. And it's all your fault. No, just kidding. So I was like, I couldn't log any time in the Twin Otter, right? You can log, I think you're able to log 10 hours if it's like under instruction or you have your multi-engine rating or whatever the hell.
Right.
So I don't know how the hell to this day I gathered up, which sounds so funny today. I don't know how I gathered up $2,000, and I went and took one of those 3-day multi-engine accelerated courses in Waco or wherever the hell it was. So I jammed out of there. That was really hard to do that in 3. Like normally the multi is not that difficult, but when you do it in 3 days, like what the hell? And it was in an old Travel Air from the 50s that was leaking oil all over the down. Anyways, crazy flashback. I was so proud when I got my multi. I jammed back to the Skydive Temple, and they literally said you had just left. And I said, left where to? Like on a load? And they're like, no, left, like gone. I'm like, what the fuck? I just got my multi. Are you fucking serious? You asshole.
Hey, you're welcome. I got your multi.
Yeah.
I got you motivated to get your in 3 days, no less. I'll tell you what, hats off to that, man. The working around VMC in a 3-day period, just to pass the oral exam, to be knowledgeable enough to do the I need to explain VMC now is difficult. So 3 days, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I would literally like at that little piece of shit. It was like a sleazebag motel I was staying in too. I think I had like U-Haul blankets on the bed, hourly rates. No,
Eh,
but
makes for a hell of a story, though.
yeah,
So now, what came next for you from Temple? Because that's where we parted ways when I headed
yeah,
off to California.
yeah. So I was there for a year, right? And then I got an offer from a drop zone in near San Diego, which will remain nameless. I believe they're still in operation. They're like, "Hurry, get on! Yeah, we got a job for you. Come on down." I freaking went out there, and I stopped off at my mom's place in Long Beach and called them before I was going to drive to San Diego, and they're like, "So yeah, we don't. That job's not available anymore. Sorry." And I'm like, "Wait, wait, 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 wait!" I gave them a tongue lashing like you can't believe. I'm like, "I just moved halfway across the country because you told me to. Okay, now I'm here, and you're telling me the job's not available. So now what?" They're like, "I don't know what to tell you, Chris. So bye." I'm like, "What the fuck, man, dude?" So, anyways, make a long story short, I'm calling drop zones all over. At that point was California. So, and God bless Pat Garcia. He needed a pilot. Yeah. And I drove up there, and he's a great guy. Still to this day is a good friend of mine. Skydive Sacramento.
It's funny that that's where you ended up, because that's where I ran away from Temple to Skydive Sacramento.
Okay, let me be honest. I was following you.
All right.
No, so yeah, I flew his Cessna 182 there for a year, and he eventually got a King Air right after I left. Of course, he gets a King Air.
Of course.
Yeah. I went to Skydive Taft after that. I was there for a year and filmed the infamous Skydive sex video.
Yeah, there's a whole generation of skydivers that have no idea about that, but it was pretty infamous back then. So tell that story.
So again, I was living in the Skydive Taft. It's out near Bakersfield. I was living in the Quonset hut there in a bunk bed. Yeah, and I get woken up in the morning by some enthusiastic skydivers knocking, Chris, wake up. Like, I'm like, oh shit, did I sleep through my alarm? What the fuck? Like, they're like, no, it's 7 a.m. We want to film this video and blah, blah, blah. And my receptionist is standing there like half naked. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? They're like, we want to film this video, and we're going to have sex in the airplane, and we're going to continue having sex as we fall through the air. And I'm like, what? Okay. Yeah, I'm in. Who needs coffee? Fuck this. Who needs coffee? Let's go. So I had no idea that this was going to turn out to be as big as it was, man. So they performed in the back of that 206, strapped themselves together, and continued to perform as they flew through the air. That video went viral like a mofo, dude. I mean, what was that comedian, Dwayne Cook? What was his name? Remember that stand-up comedian?
Yeah, Dane Cook.
Dane Cook. He was happened to be watching his HBO special. He's like, so I was watching that skydiving sex video. So you're telling me that wasn't bird shit that landed on my car? And then I don't know that. I had no idea, I was used to crazy shit happening in the airplane as a jump pilot. That one took the cake though, but I didn't think it was going to go viral like that, man. He was trying to get on, I don't even remember his name now. Voodoo. That was his name. He was a legit porn star, and he was one of our TIs. Yeah. And his goal was to try to get on the Howard Stern show. And to get on that show, you got to do something outlandish, crazy. So, and he I don't even know if he actually got on the show or not, but he got on every other show.
Right.
I mean, we had friggin' like the Anderson Cooper show producers calling the drop zone wanting to interview even me. And I was declining all interviews. And
probably not a bad thing.
No, man. So.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's funny because in the skydiving world, although that's a fun story, it's just a skydiving story, right?
Yes.
But outside of the skydiving world, that's just fucking outrageous. Like people can't even fathom that. But in Chicagoland, when I was flying out there, we would sell mile high tours around Chicago.
Oh, I've thought about that idea before. You guys actually did it.
Oh yeah. No, I flew, I want to say 3 or 4 of them. And it's a very strange thing because we had the benches fold up in the Otter.
Uh-huh.
So we'd fold the benches up, we'd put a mattress in there, we had a little champagne holder, and we would change the lights to red so that I could turn on the cabin lights, but it'd be dim and red. And then we'd put a door in between the cabin and the cockpit. And so
Uh-huh.
they'd climb on board and I'd tell them how long we'd gonna be, and
That's
I'd
sweet.
I'd take off, and then I would announce when we were 1 mile off the ground so they could
Now, what
get
if they
to
say,
it.
"Can you give us 10 more minutes, please? 10 more minutes."
Well, see, that's the great thing is because you got that separation, it was an hour-long tour, and
Uh-huh.
I would tell them, all right, we'll be circling around the Chicago area at a mile high.
Uh-huh.
And I will tell you via the intercom when we're going to be starting to head back towards the airport. And if you would like more time, we can extend that time. You just need to give me a good knock on the door, and I'll know to extend the time. Now, nobody did ever extend the time, although we did have one couple get in that brought a backpack with them. So God only knows what was in that. But again, that was just a skydiving story, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, outside of the skydiving world, that's just the most ridiculous thing people had ever heard.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
You
Like it
gotta
was
love that
more
shit.
it was more impressive to me that Dane Cook was like adding it to his comedic routine than
Oh
you
yeah.
know. I would have forgot about it after a week or two.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I remember we had Will Smith has come out and done a bunch of jumps in Dubai when I was flying out there, and I was lucky enough to fly him a bunch of times. And then he came out with I don't know if he was doing a motivational speech or he was on a talk show or something, but he went on this like 10 or 15-minute rant about skydiving that was just amazing to hear how
Uh-huh.
excited he was. And I remember listening to Will Smith talking about this, going, dude, I was flying that plane. It was just a fucking tandem,
Uh-huh.
right? Because to
Yeah.
me, it's just another day at work. It just happened to be Will Smith in the back this time, but
Yeah.
he was so amped, and it was really fucking cool to see it from an outside perspective.
You just reminded me of something. So recently I flew, which was, I don't geek out about these celebrities that I fly, but every now and then. So I'm, always been a big rap fan since the 80s. But I flew Wu-Tang Clan recently.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't know this at the time, but like, so I'm, I don't know, we were in cruise and then I felt a tap on the shoulder and it was Redman. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right.
Redman is in the cockpit. I can die and go to heaven. I'm good.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm sorry to bother you, bro. And he had his camera going. I thought that was going to be my 15 minutes of fame because, he's got 1 billion followers or whatever on
Right.
everywhere. So he's like, so he's like, he's like, how did you get your start? And I told him I flew skydiver. So he's like, oh, I skydive. And I didn't know that until he, and then when I once, later on that evening, if you search Redman skydiving, he's a skydiver. He's like
Nice.
a legit, yeah, it's pretty cool, man. So sorry, you just gave me that flashback.
No, it's super cool. I mean, I generally don't tend to be too starstruck either. I mean, Will Smith was a bit of an exception because I had been a really big fan of his, and to meet him, he was really, really nice to everybody, which was super cool. And the only other one that really stood out to me was flying Tom Cruise when they were doing jumps out at the desert campus in Dubai, and he told me I was a fast pilot. And I turned to my buddy Joe Keffer, and I'm like, dude, Maverick just told me I'm a fast pilot. I'm like, all right, that's a keeper.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that one. But otherwise, it is what it is. But so let's talk about how you end up in a gig where you're flying around Wu-Tang Clan. So obviously you got rid of the doorless 206.
Well, before that though, so I flew skydivers for about over 6 years. So it was let's see here, Capital Skydiving, Skydive Temple, Skydive Sacramento, Skydive Taft. And then I learned to fly the Caravan at Skydive Santa Barbara. David Hughes, he's a good guy. Let's see here, and then after that was just a training thing. I proposed this to him. I'm like, because I think at the time he might have been charging to train how to fly the Caravan or whatever. And
Sure.
I'm like, dude, I'm a jump pilot. I'm like 300 a week. I ain't got that. I'm eating top ramen. I ain't got your whatever money you're asking for. No, but how about this? I will fly your 206 for free in exchange for a week. In exchange, you show me how to fly the Caravan. And he's like, deal. And I'm like, phew, I went over there, did that. And then where did I go next? So Vagabond. Let's see.
Yeah, man.
Which I love. That's another aspect of it, right? I love that. Meeting new people, seeing new parts of the country. Skydive San Marcos is where I flew one of their caravans on a road show, right? Just kind of like what you were doing.
Yep.
So smaller drop zones that couldn't afford to buy their own caravan would lease it. And I flew it at Skydive Louisiana, Skydive Houston. Yeah, all over the place. And
So
then,
when did you decide to pursue something outside of the skydiving world?
So right about that time I started, the next thing I did was do aerial survey flying.
Okay.
God,
that's fucking boring.
I know.
Oh my God.
I like that. That's what I know. Like we call it mowing the grass, right? So,
yeah.
So, but that was interesting. And that's what I love about aviation too, is and again, this goes back to, I get bored too easy, right? Believe it or not, flying skydivers got boring to me. I'm like, okay, like, dude, I could do this in my sleep. I'm not being challenged right now. I mean, it's fun. The people are fun. The Friday nights and Saturday night bonfires are hella fun, but come on, I want to challenge myself.
Sure.
So I went, and this job was down in Nicaragua, right? So we were doing, you ever heard of LiDAR?
Oh yeah.
So we had ironically, a raggedy old 206, but it had a $1 million LiDAR laser with a hole in the bottom of the airplane and a high-powered camera. We were working on the canal project. I don't know if you've heard about this, but they've been talking about this on and off for decades. They're going to build a canal through Nicaragua that's going to rival the Panama Canal.
Wow.
Because they've even recently widened the Panama Canal, but these ships are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they can't fit through there. And when they go the long way around, I think it takes them 2 weeks. Imagine how much in fuel that costs. And there's a big lake in Nicaragua. They're going to utilize the lake. Anyways, the specific project I was working on is they wanted to find the path of least resistance for this big dig, right, on the Pacific side. So I would just go over this rainforest along from the shoreline in towards the lake, trying to find the path of least resistance. This LiDAR, by the way, is fascinating to me. It shoots 1 million points of light per second. But when I go over a rainforest, it not only tells you how high each tree is, it tells you how high every branch on every single tree is. And when I'm done, it can create a 3-dimensional model that you could put on a conference table of that forest right in front of you. And when
amazing.
I go over water, when I flew over the water, it would tell you, are there boulders down there? How big are they? It was just fascinating, man.
Well, hey, I mean, as pilots, we end up in some potentially interesting gigs.
Oh my God. Let me tell you about, have you ever been to Managua, Nicaragua?
I've not, no.
Okay. So God bless those people. First of all, okay. They're struggling down there. They're excited about this canal because it'll, jobs and whatnot.
Sure.
But I had literally armed guards. I'd be in this little minivan that from the gated hotel to the aeropuerto every day with guys with AK-47s escorting my dumb ass because they thought I might get kidnapped by some drug cartels or something, but
Sure.
whatever. But it was sketchy, man. It was
I'll bet.
sketchy.
Well, so that was your first foray out of skydiving, but I mean, how the hell do you get from there to flying the Wu-Tang Clan?
Yeah. So after doing aerial survey, by the way, I ferried that to Cancun, Mexico, and lived in a hotel on the beach for a year, paid for by the company. Nice. To this day, my friends are like, can you tell us again why you left that job?
Right.
I was like, I want to fly jets, guys. Like, shit. After that, I flew cargo in the world's ugliest airplane. It's called a Shorts 360, also known as a Sherpa.
Yeah, I'm type rated in a Sherpa.
There we go.
Yeah.
Love that airplane. Ugly as hell, but I love it. Got a soft spot for her. So I flew cargo, mostly auto parts all over North America, up into Canada, Mexico for about a year and a half. Dude, my schedule was 12 days on, 2 days off. What the hell, can we say masochistic?
Wow. Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it
talk
was
about
backside of the clock too.
racking up multi-engine turbine time, though.
That's why, yeah. Because at that time I only had 30 hours of multi, right? So I wasn't.
That's the thing that I think people outside of aviation don't understand is that pilots, when they're getting started, rode hard and put away wet. These companies have the motto, kick them like dogs till they run away and then
Yep.
get a new one.
Yeah.
Because we're desperate for the hours
And they know that, and they got you by the balls. Yeah.
Well, because every fucking job listing for a pilot is one number followed by TT. And they want to know how much fucking time you've got and how much turbine time. And if you don't have it, don't even fucking bother.
Yep.
So you'll do anything to get that time.
Yeah.
Including 12 days on, 2 days off. Fuck that.
Oh my God. And that was backside of the clock. And I never got used to sleeping during the day and I can just never, after a year and a half.
No.
Thank God I had a friend of a friend over there at Jet Suite, right? They used to be headquartered at John Wayne Airport there in Orange County and flying a Phenom 100. I got hired to fly that. And I flew for them for 2 years. And then, like I told you earlier, they got, excuse me, they went bankrupt. Well, they had two sides of the house when I was there. The private charter side, which were the Phenoms.
Right.
Private jets. And then they had a public charter side called Jet Suite X, which is now called JSX, and it's still around. They're flying Embraer 145s. It's a great concept. So they're blending a regional airline with a private jet world, right? So these big regional jet looking things called Embraer 145s, they'll pull up to an FBO. So the passengers don't have to deal with TSA. They don't have to deal with gates and terminals and all that bullshit. And drinks are free on board, and the rates aren't that bad, all things considered. But anyways, I was on the private charter side. They went bankrupt in April of 2020, and while I was here in Dallas here, and So
now during this time would have been, or I would imagine a bit before then would have been when you started up the websites and geared towards jump pilots.
So that started actually at Skydive Temple, right? So I had a lot of questions, right? Again, I come right out of the academy, and they're rigid. They're all out of the book, and that doesn't fly in the skydiving world.
No,
right?
No.
Matter of fact, I forgot to tell you, my first week on the job at Capital Skydiving in that 206, right? We were on jump run, and I pulled the throttle back, but it did not respond to the input. The throttle lever was moving in and out, but the engine was not responding. And they're back there yelling, like, cut. And I did like this, like, look at this. I pointed to my eyeballs and then to that. And then I went in and out, and their eyes got big, like, oh shit. And they're like, good. I remember one of these jackasses said, good luck with that one. And he jumped out. I'm like, what the fuck? Here I am. Okay. So there I was.
You got to love a skydiving sense of humor.
Yeah. And actually it got stuck in the open position. The throttle got stuck in the open. So I was actually starting to climb, especially after their fat asses jumped out.
Of course.
And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, and again, I'm tying this all together because in the academy, there's no damn checklist for what you do when the throttle gets stuck in the open position. Trust me, I looked after the fact. There's no, try Google searching it.
Right.
I already did. There's no, you won't find anything.
Right.
So I'm like, what the fuck do I do? You got to think outside the box. So I was like, I could cut the engine completely, but then I'm like, no, that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Right.
I was like, the mixture, let's fuck around with the mixture. So I leaned it till it would almost die, and that worked, and that got me all, but I'm like, okay, that's working. But at some point, Chris, you're going to have to cut it completely on final, but where on final? And remember, this is a 206. They're notorious to be nose heavy. You have to trim that before you land, or
right.
you'll prop strike. So I was like, oh, shit, man. When do I cut the engine? Where's the checklist for this? I don't see one. So anyways, and like they always say on those emergency landings, they're always your smoothest. And sure enough, it was smooth. It was like a damn swan on a lake, small ripples. It was nice.
Yep.
So, and so
when it counts.
Yeah, let me tie this all together. So after that, as you can imagine, I had a lot of questions and they weren't being answered. I was calling my flight school. They don't know. They have no idea, nothing. They're all skydivers. Most of them are not pilots. They don't know. A lot of the DCOs aren't pilots. He didn't know.
Right.
So I was looking online. There was nothing. Chris Schindler, who's a good friend of mine, his site at that time in 2008 was not. Oh, it was folded. I don't know. He had it shut down or whatever. It was not active. So I'm like, well, fuck this, dude. I'm going to start my own. And I started skydiverdriver.com.
Yeah.
And it's still up right now. It has all the FARs that pertain to skydiving is on there. I post jobs on there. I'm a geek, and on my days off, I write best practice articles for jump pilots or anyone that's thinking about becoming a jump pilot.
Nice.
Then once I start, go ahead.
I was going to say that's one of those things, right? Is you learn a lot of shit when you're sitting in the cockpit with an accomplished jump pilot, but if you've been thrown into a situation where it's a learn on your own type of thing, you're literally figuring it out as you go on the fly, so to speak.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is a tricky spot to be. I remember because I flew for 4 years for Chicagoland, and then I got hired on by Seabourn Airlines in the Virgin Islands.
I remember that.
Yeah, flying Twin Otters. And of course, I go there, I do the ground school, and at the end of the ground school, they send you to Canada to go to the sim. And I remember going and doing the sim and after the ground school, and I remember sending my old boss a message going, I can't believe I didn't fucking kill everybody. I didn't know anything about this goddamn plane. Like,
thank God they were jumping out.
Yeah, I'm like, holy shit, there are so many times I should have killed everybody. Because I had no idea. And then you go through proper training and you're like, oh shit, okay, all right, oops.
Yep.
Live and learn. I'm still here. So, and you've been doing Skydiver Driver's been around for quite a while now.
Yeah, yep. And then, so I was going to segue into, once I started flying the Caravan, again, not that it's a complicated airplane at all. I had questions again, so I did the same. I was like, there's no answers to my questions anywhere, not even on the damn Cessna Textron website. So I'm like, well, okay, we've been here before. Let's start our website. And at the time, originally it was called caravanpilot.com. And there was no lofty ideas. I wasn't planning on making money at all. This was a gift back to the aviation community. Actually, it was just supposed to be a resource only. And the next thing I know, like, a Caravan Pilot just exploded, man, in a good way. And it was very popular. To this day, I haven't paid $1 for advertising for that site. I think it's getting 3 million page views a year and over 100,000 followers on social media.
Nice.
Haven't bought any of those people. But
that's fantastic.
And then somebody came to me at 2012, I think it was, and said, Chris, we love your Caravan site. So we have a Caravan we're trying to sell. And remember, I didn't have a sales page or nothing on there. He's like, so we would like to list our Caravan for sale. How much would that be? And I'm like, good thing that wasn't over the phone or in person, because I'm like, yeah. So, yeah.
Right.
I think I looked on various websites that sell aircraft, and I undercut them a little, and I sent him the number. He's like, yeah, we want to prepay for 6 months. I'm like, oh, okay. That's baby money. Next thing I know, like 2 weeks later, he emails me. He's like, Chris, so we want to propose something to you. If you find a buyer for our Caravan, we'll give you $10,000. Does that sound fair? And I was like, on the inside, I was like, fuck yeah. But on the outside, I was like, yeah, I guess that sounds fair. And so that encouraged me, right? So I was like, now I was motivated to find, and I found him a buyer within days and checks in the mail. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. That was too easy. Wait. So instead of being reactive, let's be proactive. Then I went out and I sought out people that were selling Caravans, and I said, hey, I can help you. I've got the only website dedicated to that airplane. We're getting blah, 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 page views. I have your audience. To that day, I still say that for our marketing. We have if they're Caravan related business, we have your audience, and we're the only one that has your audience, actually. And we changed the name, because I felt like Caravan Pilot pigeonholed us to just pilots when we were becoming more than that. So I changed it. I know it's corny, but I use the word nation. So I'm big into marketing and branding. So most of my websites are Caravan Nation, PC12 Nation, Turboprop, you name it, we've got it.
Nice.
So, and that company is.
Has there been blowback on the caravan stuff with the all the Blackhawk issues over the last few years?
Yeah. Yep.
Man, oh man, for fuck's sake. I I have seen the ash.
Wait, wasn't there in Dubai? What happened to that? Are you talking about that caravan?
Yeah, it
in
was a
Dubai?
Blackhawk. It was a Blackhawk conversion caravan. It
Yes.
threw a CT blade.
Mhm.
It was a critical failure. Seized the engine and seized the prop unfeathered at 2,300 feet.
Yikes.
He was on the ground in 90 seconds.
Yikes.
Yeah,
Yikes.
yeah. Between the skill of the pilot and a bunch of jumpers in the back with their heads screwed on straight that kept
Uh-huh.
calm, everybody stayed seated, stayed belted in, and the pilot was able to put it basically on the flattest dune you can find in the desert out there.
Uh-huh.
It was just a few bumps and scrapes. But
Oh my God. Thank God.
everybody walked away from it, and it could have been, I mean, it could have been all dead. It should have
Yeah.
been all dead. He just all of them just did amazing with it. But
Uh-huh.
I mean, that was one of a number of Blackhawking incidents.
Uh-huh. And I
Yeah.
don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I should know, Mr. Caravan should know, but I believe it wasn't just Blackhawk converted
You know,
aircraft, was it?
I'd be talking out my ass if I said I knew much more than that. I know that
Mhm.
Blackhawks themselves definitely had issues. The Texas turbines conversion is the one that Ray Farrell swears by,
Mhm.
and I've never heard of any issues with that, but there
Mhm.
absolutely could have been. But I'd be way
Mhm.
out of my depth.
So I believe. Uh,
I've been Twin Otter pretty much exclusively ever since that crash because Dubai phased out their single engines after that.
okay, wow.
Yeah.
So I believe that Cessna initiated a 500-hour bore scope after that on all caravans. That's what made me think it's not just the Blackhawk, the larger.
I would imagine that would be them being as proactive as humanly possible because I
Mhm.
mean Cessna is such a recognizable brand around the world.
Mhm.
They can't afford to have, that kind of stain with their, one of their leading aircraft falling out of the sky.
Yeah,
So I'd imagine it was yeah, hey, these are Black Hawk conversions, but we're gonna check our whole fleet just to be sure.
yeah,
Smart.
yep.
I mean, we don't need another Boeing, right?
Yeah, no, no. And I haven't actually, you know what? I haven't heard of a CT blade creep, as they call it. I haven't heard of an incident in quite a while, actually. I'm hoping that they fixed that. I don't know,
Which
a
is good.
bad batch or
I
what the
mean,
hell.
it's amazing to hear because I mean the caravan is such a staple of the skydiving community that
Mhm.
for that aircraft, I mean, in Dubai, we had jumpers that were calling ahead to find out is it the Otter or is it the caravan? And if it was the
Oh,
caravan, they
really?
would, oh yeah,
Yikes.
they wouldn't
Oh,
come out
that's,
and yeah, they wouldn't
oh,
come jump. They're like, no, I'm not getting in that plane.
huh.
And for the folks that were on that particular crash, the pilot included, none of them have been back on a caravan, I don't think. At least not
Yeah,
if they can avoid it, because, I mean,
yeah.
obviously after something like that.
That's too bad. Darn
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But hey, I want you to drop all the information because we got people that are listening now. You've mentioned a couple of websites, but lay out the social media, how they can get a hold of you if they've got questions, how they can hop on these sites and get more information.
Yeah, so they can contact me at chris@caravannation.com. So the websites are skydiverdriver.com. And that's not just for jump pilots either. There's DZO resources on there as well.
Awesome.
Caravannation.com, PC12nation.com. We don't have all day. I can't list them all.
Sure,
The ones that
sure.
pertain to skydiving specifically would be, skydiverdriver.com. And for on that, in that arena for my jump pilot guys and gals, I've also started jobsforlowtimepilots.com. I found there's a little, I know, isn't that funny?
Nice.
I found, and again, with all the websites and companies, every time I think I have a brilliant idea to add to the website, it fails.
Of course.
I let the market tell you what they want. And they were telling me, Chris, there's no damn jobs for low-time pilots. And I'm like, tell me that URL's, tell me that's available. And it was Score. I'm like, okay. So so that's for them. And what else? Caravan, caravannation.com, maybe turbopropnation.com.
And how about how do they find you on Facebook?
On Facebook, so just Chris or Christopher Rosenfelt, search it on there. And
Diver Driver's on there, yeah?
Yeah, Skydiver Driver.
Skydiver Driver.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Diver Driver's Chris Schindler. And again, if you want to, that's a wonderful plug for him. Chris Schindler's a great guy, good friend of mine. That he's the OG as far as the Diver Driver websites, and his is diverdriver.com. Mine's skydiverdriver.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Chris, I'll tell you what, man, it's been fantastic catching up with you. It's again, we haven't been
You
face
as
to
well.
face since 2008, but it's great to hear that the adventure is ongoing.
Same with you. Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
For sure, man. I can't wait to hear what's next. And after the Wu-Tang Clan, let's see what next adventure comes along.
Yeah,
for
how
you.
can I beat the Wu? How can I beat the Wu? How?
Hey, man, you never know.
Yep.
All right, brother.
How often do you ever come to Dallas area?
I haven't been in the States more than a couple of times over the last few years. I've lived outside the U.S. for almost 15 years now. I'll be making trips through there, but they're usually pretty short and sweet for the kids' graduation and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. Well, so
But you never know, man.
Next time I'm in Europe, I've been thinking about doing one of those river tour things. So
hell yeah, dude, hit me up. Hit me up.
Okay, buddy.
All right, brother.
Nice talking to you.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by Gyro. Formerly known as NZ Aerosports, you'll head to gyro.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems, check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving, go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD, head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available, hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.